unapologetic, unadulterated, and uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the super fortress of intelligent black thought. This is the BlackChannel.net radio. I am, of course, your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And we're glad to have you all with us here this evening. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. 646-787-1933 is your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. Of course, you should be joining us, because today, boy, oh boy, these are the times that test men's souls. And before we even get started tonight, I just want to let you know that a lot of you ignorant Afrocentrics out there, of course, most of you are just completely ignorant, totally. But for those of you who call yourselves Afrocentrics without a cause, without any knowledge, tonight's broadcast will definitely be offensive to you, because it is a much needed and long overdue wake-up call that exposes just how little you actually know, and just how completely erroneous you are in every aspect. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you that tonight is probably going to be a broadcast that changes your mind about the way that you see things, about the way that you feel about things, about the way that you approach things. So do be aware of that before you listen any further, because you can't say you weren't told. You can't say you weren't informed. Also tonight, for those of you who, because of the technical issues that the theater was having with their projector on January 17th, if you went to Chicago and you were unable to see 7 a.m. due to the projector issues at that theater, I want to let you know that after tonight's broadcast, only for you people, we will be streaming 7 a.m. in its entirety online. I'll be going into that in a little more detail here a little bit later, but just to let you know that we will be streaming 7 a.m. in its entirety online tonight, and probably I want to try to do it at least for 48 hours. Make sure we got everybody in there, and that way any people that you had with you, you can go ahead and you can have them take a look at it as well. So we make sure that everybody who, for whatever reason, was not able to see it, that will be available to you also. I'll go into detail about that here in a little while, but first there's something we need to talk about here first. There's first something that needs to be dealt with here. There's a phrase that you don't hear at the Black Channel, because you see, we are intelligent black society. We are not ignorant and uneducated black society. We are intelligent black society, which means that words mean things. And because words mean things, that means that we don't use them without a purpose. So when you start saying ignorant things, stupid things, like, I'm going to run back to Africa. Now, you have no money, you've done nothing in America, you've done nothing against the white supremacist stronghold in America, and somehow you're going to do something against the white supremacist stronghold in Africa when there is no infrastructure in place. But to my people around the world, you better think that over. You better think that over a lot before you say that. You better think over seriously exactly what you mean when you say things like, you're going to go back to Africa. Do you actually understand what it is that you're going back to? Now, a lot of you don't. Some of you do. And for even those of you who don't, it doesn't really matter because you're not going. But for those of you who say you're serious about it, understand there's a lot that you don't know and aren't aware of, and you really should be. Because you're going back to go jump directly into the lion's mouth, and you're completely unaware of it. Isn't that amazing?
In South Africa, evil has always had a face. Eugene de Kock, the quiet policeman who confessed to killing and torturing dozens of black activists in the years before the end of racial apartheid. De Kock was sentenced to life in prison many times over. His nickname, Prime Evil. But 19 years on, is it time to forgive? This morning, the South African government finally said yes.
In the interests of nation building and reconciliation, I have decided to place Mr. de Kock on parole.
In recent months, de Kock has met some of his victims' families in jail seeking forgiveness.
So they would then, if you're reporting to Eugene, you would then say, okay.
Sandra Mama's husband, Glennack, was shot dead by de Kock in 1992, part of a campaign to wreck South Africa's transition to democracy.
You really look at this guy and you think, my goodness, am I really face to face with this killer? And when he said, I'm sorry, you could really see that he's sorry. It was not just, I'm saying it because I need to get parole. He was really, you could see in his eyes, he was genuine.
It's thought many of de Kock's victims were dumped in this deep pit. But as horrific as Prime Evil's crimes were, this is not about just one man. It's about the system that enabled him and the fact that almost nobody else was made to pay the price. Was it perhaps an official cover-up, Prime Evil as the ultimate scapegoat?
He didn't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to do this. He got the instructions from the top.
And they got away with it.
And they got away with it. They're living, they're amongst us today. And one man is taking the fall.
But some think de Kock himself has got off too lightly today. Becky Mlangeni was a human rights lawyer blown up by one of de Kock's letter bombs.
They call him the killing machine. We don't think it's justice. At least 50 years.
50 years in prison.
Yes, it deserves that.
As Archbishop Desmond Tutu said today, forgiveness is not easy. Andrew Harding, BBC News, South Africa.
Now, you hear things like that. You hear things like that. And I'm going to post the link. I'm going to post it on Twitter right now here. And so that those of you, if you come back and see this after the broadcast, you'll be able to see that. That was from the BBC. And I want you to see that. I want you to see it for yourselves. That in one of the most despicable and shameless acts of cowardice that you're probably going to witness in your lives, there should not be a single African anywhere talking about forgiveness, talking about excusing this. I mean, you should have seen her with her little caramel colored self. You should have seen her sitting up here talking about, you could see that he was sorrowful and genuine in his eyes. And they have a picture of him with her with his arm around her like she's his girlfriend. I mean, these people consider it to be a status symbol. Let me say that one more time, because I don't want there to be any type of misunderstanding about exactly what it is I'm saying and why I'm saying it. These people in South Africa, these black people in South Africa, they consider it to be a status symbol their loved one, at least they say they loved him, but apparently they didn't, that someone they knew, someone they were related to, they consider it to be a status symbol. That an Afrikaner, that white supremacy killed them, they consider that to be a status symbol for themselves. They consider it to be something to celebrate. Hey, I can get on the news and I can get attention for it. It wasn't that serious. These are the black Africans saying this now. These are the black Africans telling you that they will go to the prison, and after only 20 years, your relative, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, your uncle, your best friend is gone forever. And this guy's done 20 years in prison for it. And they're okay with it. They're cool with it. Hey, all is forgiven. All is forgiven. They consider this to be something to brag about. That not only was my husband killed by Eugene Prime Evil de Kock, but I got to go to prison and get my picture taken with him like we're at the county fair. No, this is what they think of their own people. This is what they think of their own people. And it's not just one or two of them. It's not just one or two of them. There were lots. He killed lots of people, by the way. He didn't just kill one or two. He killed lots of people. Now, reading from the story here, I want you all to latch on to some of the language here, okay? I want you to latch on to some of the language here from the BBC, their News Africa. He was nicknamed Prime Evil. Justice Minister Michael Masutha said de Kock would be released, quote, in the interests of nation building, end quote. Those were his exact words. Now, Masutha is black, but he looks, and I'm not saying this to be mean, he looks like one of these inbred, he looks really, there's something really, really off looking at this guy, genetically. He genetically looks way thrown off. This guy ain't right. No wonder they want him in charge of the parole board. They got the most backwater, inbred, literally cross-eyed individual that they could find. Put him in charge of the parole board. Of course he's gonna let everybody go. He can't even see what's in front of him. And I mean that literally, by the way. He has to use Braille. Go look it up for yourselves, by the way. I put his picture on my thread on Facebook for it. Go look it up for yourselves. Go look it up for yourselves. Oh, he's black, all right, but he might as well be an Afrikaner. He might as well be one of them. So they got some literally blind Clarence Thomas in South Africa, and apparently Africa is just overfilled with Clarence Thomases. It is just flooded with them, that there is no amount of abuse that white supremacy can do to them that will not have them coming back and wagging their tails and happy to take the next punch to the face. Now, it's one thing when you have somebody who's being abused, but what do you do with somebody who is happy to be abused? What do you do with someone who is pleased to be abused? What do we do with him? What do we do with him? What do you do with someone who is actually happy to be abused? What are we going to do with them? Think about that for a while. Let that sink in. De Kock, now 66 years old, was sentenced in 1996 to 2 life terms in prison and a further 212 years for the crimes he committed. Mr. Massoudha said the time and place of de Kock's release would not be made public. The Justice Minister stressed that his decision was guided by South Africa's constitution. Now, for those of you who are not aware, because you are young people, and the young people of black society today, you need to understand that this place is difficult for you. The Black Channel and what we say here is difficult to you because we do not sit up here just doing a bunch of empty rhetoric. We point the finger where it belongs and we demand accountability from those whom it should be demanded of and from those whom it's due. Your parents of the 20th century, your parents betrayed you. They sold you out. Most of you, your parents might as well be members of the Ku Klux Klan because your parents have committed acts of treason and genocide against you. First and foremost, your parents brought you into this world and they refused to tell you, teach you, or educate you as to whom your enemies are. They refuse to tell you. Because they don't see Daniel Pantaleo and Darren Wilson and Eugene de Kock. Your parents don't see them as the enemy. Your parents see them as daddy. And I mean that literally the way I'm saying it. Most of you, your mothers would have no problem wrapping themselves around Daniel Pantaleo after he murders one of you. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically, I mean that literally. The mental and emotional schism in them runs so deep that they demand and are so desperate, so hopelessly desperate for their approval in white supremacy's eyes that they would let all of you die for the chance to welcome your killer to their bed. And I'm not overstating it. I'm not saying something is untrue. I'm not going over the line. I mean it literally. You just saw what they just said in South Africa. Hello? You see how they raise you here in America. Now, let's take a look at another group of people. Another group of people who are uncompromising. And oh yeah, your parents owe you something about that too, by the way. Let's talk about Jews. You see, I have always admired the way that Jews have done things. Because you see, that is a group of non-white peoples, I put that in quotations, who have fought tooth and toenail to retain their identity. Because you see, over 6 million of them were marched off to the gas chambers. And that was their wake-up call that these people will never accept us. And the price of acceptance was our mothers and our daughters and our families and our children. And we will not pay that price again. You go and try to talk to them about forgiving Heinrich Himmler, forgiving Eichmann, forgiving Edelman, forgiving Goebbels. You go and talk to them and start the conversation about, well, shouldn't we have forgiveness? You see, as part of de Klerk and writing the new South African Constitution, they wanted to make sure, the white Afrikaners, the white supremacist regime, wanted to make sure that this would be a black government in name only, and that under the new government, they would not be able to pursue them for their crimes. That they would essentially just get to keep on keeping on, just keep on pushing. But you see, Jews didn't do that. You see, for Jews, there was no Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You see, that was what the white regime in South Africa demanded. A, quote, truth and reconciliation. It was not a Truth and Justice Commission. They did not want justice. We want reconciliation. We want you to reconcile with your rapists and with your child killers. Because the Vlakpas was South Africa's version of the Nazi SS. I mean, it was literally a secret police. So that was the Nazi SS, that is the Vlakpas of South Africa. South Africa's secret police that would kidnap and kill. There was one man individual. They were trying to find him. They couldn't find him. They found his brother. They figured maybe he knows. They tortured him. He didn't know anything. And then they said, well, he doesn't know anything, but we can't let him go because he's seen us. This is Eugene de Kock now. This was one that he was a part of. We can't let him go because he's seen us, so we gotta go kill him now. So they took him out to a field. They tried to shoot him. They shot him once. The gun jammed. They had another gun. It didn't work. Talk about the gang that couldn't shoot straight. So Eugene de Kock, after 20 years, he's been paroled now. This nice, good, white Christian. He takes a shovel. They said a spade. And hacks the guy's head off with it. That's right. Like ISIS, like IS, like Al-Qaeda, like Musab al-Zarqawi. That's right. That was what this guy did. What did the United States do when you had a vicious killer who beheaded people? Well, the United States parked a Tomahawk cruise missile under his pillow. But the United States is not trying to reconcile with terrorists. The United States is trying to kill people who are against its best interests. In Africa, however, Africans are not building anything. And when you are not building anything, you are not protecting anything, and that includes your own children. Oh, these are hard truths to swallow tonight. These are hard truths to accept. And your parents won't tell you this. Why? Because your parents are also worthless bastards who ain't building nothing. So they hate it when you start talking about, Mom, Dad, what are you building? Because if you're building something, that means you have an obligation to your children as part of that legacy. Your parents are building nothing. They give not a damn about you. Let the police come and kill you. One less mouth to feed. After all, they didn't really want you here in the first place. You were just a product of your mammy not taking birth control like she said, or your daddy saying it feels better with no condoms. Well, there you are. Oh, I'm hurting a lot of people tonight because you don't. These are the truths. Now, you know from your life, you can see that's clearly what happened, but it's hard. It's hard because this is the first time a lot of you have heard this. With someone who just said it straight out, and lightning didn't descend from the sky, the earth didn't open up and swallow me, a black hole didn't pop up in the sky and suck me in. I said the truth, and the truth will set you free. It will. But first, it's going to tick you off. And that's exactly what's happening now. But it is the truth. You see, Jewish people were not about to sit back and let the killers of their children walk free. They had Nuremberg. Nuremberg was not about reconciling with you. Nuremberg was about wrecking you, not reconciling. It was about finding their enemies and exterminating them. Because their enemies tried to exterminate them, and there is nothing you can do with a vicious killer. You cannot rehabilitate him. You cannot reconcile with him. You can only remove him. That's all you can do. And black people made it our cultural practice that we try to make love to our killers, to our murderers. We love our murderers more than our own children. That's sick. That is demented. That's evil. When you watch somebody who has killed literally over 100 people and you are sitting here talking about, sure, let him go. We need to let him go in the interest of nation building. That's right. That's what he said. We need more killers and more murderers on the streets of Africa. More white bigot supremacists who hate and kill Africans. That's the only way that you're going to build a united and prosperous Africa, is by opening up the floodgates and having our killers walk among us. Now, if you don't consider that to be sick, then there's something wrong with you. If you don't consider that to be deranged and psychopathic, there's something wrong with you. The story goes on to say, it talks to Sandra Mama, that's the woman you just heard here a few minutes ago talking about she forgives him, the widow of Glenack Mama, who was killed by de Kock in 1992. She said she thought the minister was right in granting parole. Quote, I think it will actually close a chapter in our history because we've come a long way. And I think his release will just once again help with the reconciliation process because there's still a lot of things we need to do as a country. Now, let me tell you all need to go and take a look at that video of her because she's a pretty light-skinned female. She's a pretty light-skinned female. And when she says, we have come a long way, and it will help with the reconciliation process, who is she trying to please? That's my question to you. Who is it exactly that she sees herself as trying to please? Maybe someone can explain that to me. Who is she trying to please? When she says that we have come a long way, apparently she lives in a different South Africa than the rest of us. Because taking a look at, I am witnessing the South Africa of Julius Malema. I am witnessing the South Africa of black Africans. So what South Africa is she talking about when she says we've come a long way? Yeah, you've come such a long way. 20 years ago, the killers of black people were walking the streets, and now 20 years later, the killers of black people are walking the streets. But you say that we've come a long way. Clearly, her goal is not the survival or empowerment of black people. So what is her goal? That's something you all need to be asking yourselves. What actually is her goal? Is her goal a thriving and prosperous black people? Or is her goal the approval and validation of the Afrikaners and the bigots, even to the extent that she simply sees the murder of her husband as a sacrificial lamb necessary so that she may cross the threshold? That her husband was simply a necessary sacrifice so that she could prove to the white racist powers that she was not against them, that she's a good negress, that you don't have to worry about her, that she's not gonna make any trouble. And to prove this, she has sacrificed her husband unto you. She has let you come and murder and kill him, and she goes and literally, this woman has literally hugged her husband's murderer and says that she thinks that he has spent enough time in jail. Could you tell me the Jewish female who stood up at Nuremberg and said, well, I think that Eichmann has been through enough. I think he's been through enough. We should let him go. I think Ehrlichman has been through enough. We should let him go. We shouldn't do anything. Why are we giving Hitler and Heinrich Himmler such a hard time? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? When we have reached a point of degradation that we are knowingly, consciously sacrificing our husbands and daughters and children, that is sick. That is sick and demented. It's very, very interesting how a lot of you, your parents, have greasy stuff to say about Jewish people. Isn't that very amazing? Your parents are so willing to forgive everybody, but where it comes to Jews, they don't want to do that for some reason. They always want to say something slick and whatnot. Louis Farrakhan and his they always want to say something slick about Jews, but you know what the reason for that is? Ask them what it is that Jews did that they don't like. What did a Jewish person ever do to you? And the first thing they will say is they all stick together. Oh, so what you mean is that they don't play the game of reconciliation. They play the game of power, wealth, and influence. They're not trying to be your buddy, because you're looking for a pat on the head from white daddy, and these people didn't give you that and made no bones about it. So that's what your parents are really upset about. Hey, these people won't even let me sit up and beg for a bone. No, they don't, because power does not respect weakness. And these people will not even play with you that they respect your weakness. Leave your money at the door and beat it. You notice your parents also have greasy things to say about the Asians as she trots her big, fat, obese mammy ass down to the Korean hair care supply store so that he can give her some more dirty looks. No, you won't. You're scared to take your parents to task because your parents have institutionalized you and brainwashed you and turned you into the submissive cowards that they always were. That's why you will not challenge them, and your situation does not change because you refuse to challenge them. Your parents could have at least done what the Jews did. Jews teach their children who their enemies are. Jews do not leave it up to Gentiles, you know, the good people who slaughtered 6 million of them. They don't leave it up to the Gentiles or the Gentile school system to teach their children about Nazi Germany. They built Holocaust museums. They built Holocaust theaters. They have Holocaust curriculums in the school, in the colleges. They have it at home. They've made series after series. They got documentary after documentary. You can't get away from the Jewish Holocaust because they want to make sure that their children never forget what happened to them, and most importantly, who did it to them. That's what you do when you are serious about the survival of your children. You make sure from the time they can crawl, you teach them who their enemies are. They teach their children about Nuremberg. They teach their children about the Nazis and the SS and the brown shirts. They teach their children about the enemies from without and the enemies from within, Mordecai Rumkowski. They teach their children what happened to them and how they got here. And they still make movies and documentaries about it to this day. Just last week, Steven Spielberg was talking about we have to be on guard against the rising tide of anti-Semitism. Now, most of you are saying, what in the world is he talking about? And he's letting you know that they are not going to let you forget that. They are always going to keep it in the forefront. They're not trying to wrap their legs or their arms around their enemies. They're not trying to do that. You're not going to find any interviewers from the BBC talking to Jewish widows of Auschwitz and Dachau and Treblinka and Louds. Look it up. You're not going to find the BBC talking to any of the widows of the concentration camps and the cities that were slaughtered. You're not going to find any Jewish widows talking about I forgive. When was the last time you heard a Jewish widow from the concentration camps and the Holocaust survivors talking about I forgive? That we need to let the Nazis who are still alive go so that we can close the chapter. You don't see Jews trying to close anything. They don't want closure. They want remembrance, not closure. Black people want closure because cowards want to forget what happened to them. Courageous people want to remember because they are now on guard. And let me tell you, the apartheid white bigot regime knows that they could march in there today and take every black person and put them back under their boots tomorrow. And it wouldn't be hard because most of them would lay down for you. They wouldn't even lift a finger to oppose you. And the simple truth of the matter is that the Jews do not want that to be their story. That they had to be carted off at gunpoint into the first Holocaust, but they laid down for a second one? No. No, that's not going to be their story. But you see, we don't teach that as black people. No. No, for all of you ignorant savages who want to sit up here and talk about Bushika and Shantanika are attempts at Afrocentric names. Yeah, you're stumbling through the English language. You're stumbling through phonics. But you notice that these people naming their kids Bushika and Shantanika, said Bushika and Shantanika know nothing about apartheid. They know nothing about segregation. They know nothing about integration. They know nothing about our experience under white supremacy. They know nothing about it. So that puts the lie to that idea that this is some stumbling, pitiful attempt at Afrocentrism. You are dealing with savagery. You are dealing with ignorance. You are dealing with a complete and total lack of education. And I mean education from the standpoint of mental intellect and capacity. A total absence of it, that they will not even teach their children who their enemies, well, I say they don't teach their children who their enemies are. They do teach their children that your enemy is anybody who step on your shoes and anybody who mess with your hair weave. That is your enemy. Unless they white. Now, if they white, you need to, cause don't you mess with them white folk. That mess up my county check. Don't you do that. But any of these other niggas out here, you get them. You don't let none of them disrespect you. The white folk disrespect you, but you don't let none of these other ones disrespect you. No. And that's what you have in Africa. An entire continent drowned, not drowning, drowned in this desperate mentality that they are, if they can bow enough, scrape enough, suck up enough, take enough punishment, give up enough of their children to death, give up enough of their mothers and wives and sons and daughters to die. If they give up enough of them, then eventually they will be accepted in white society on white terms. That if they give up enough of their people, that they will eventually be able to become the artificial Afrikaners. And I'm not overstating it. That's what they really believe they're doing. Now, if you have to have it explained to you why this is a problem, then it would be completely and totally pointless to try to explain it to you. It would be ridiculous. But you see, we've got a long history of this now. We got a long-term problem here because the hooks are deep. The hooks are way deep at this point. Because you've got agents who've been sitting next to you the whole time, not for a day, not for a week, not for a year, not for a decade, going back 3 and 4 and 5 and 8 and 12 and 15 decades. They've got all in your institutions. They set up their agents to be in charge of your institutions. That's what they've done. They've got their agents running the show in what you thought were your institutions, and yet you should have asked yourselves a few more questions about these things you thought were your institution. Now, de Kock confessed to more than 100 acts of murder, torture, and fraud, taking full responsibility for the activities of his undercover unit. Full should be in quotations, by the way. Now, understand this now. Here's what the story goes on to say. He was granted amnesty for most offenses. He was granted amnesty. But the Truth and Reconciliation Commission only had the power to grant amnesty to human rights violators whose crimes were linked to a political motive and who made a full confession. During the Truth and Reconciliation Commission hearings, de Kock described the murders of a number of African National Congress members. This would be the equivalent of somebody in the Tea Party murdering Democrats and then people talking about we need to parole him and let him go. We need to close the chapter on that. We need to close the chapter. We need to forgive. Just close the chapter. Now, he admitted to murdering African National Congress members in countries including Lesotho, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, and Angola. But he tried to point the finger at the police commander above him. You know the I was only following orders defense. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Holocaust, you understand what their reaction was to I was only following orders. That was not an excuse at Nuremberg, but apparently in Africa, for Africans, that qualifies as an excuse. You desire to be beneath the boot of white supremacy. You long for it. You dream of it. You wish for it like a lover. And that is disgusting. You're sickening. Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. Why, Negroes just love their titles, don't they? This fella has been an archbishop now since I was a child. Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu, who chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Let me say that one more time. Desmond Tutu, who chaired the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. They did not go to get a judge. They did not go to get a lawyer. They did not go to get a sensible policeman. They did not go to get a politician. They did not get somebody who was elected by the people. They chose some flunky, some lackey of the Catholic Church to be the chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, with him coming in the door saying that his job is forgiveness. Have you all ever seen a war crimes tribunal whose job was forgiveness? Why is it they never talk about forgiveness at The Hague? When George W. Bush invaded Iraq and they grabbed Saddam Hussein, where was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission? Where was the reconciliation hearing? Did I miss something? Did I miss something? Where was the Reconciliation Commission for Saddam Hussein, for Hosni Mubarak, for Slobodan Milosevic, for Radovan Karadzic, for Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge? Where was the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for them? But for Africans, all of a sudden there needs to be a reconciliation commission. We are not here for justice, we're here for reconciliation. Because you see, justice would not do. Justice is insufficient. Now, it's sufficient for the Afrikaners. It's sufficient in America. It's sufficient in Europe. But for Africans, no. Justice is not good enough for you as an African. You need something better than justice. Well, what's better than justice? Forgiveness and reconciliation. So they send a black face. A black face that has been there for a long time. A black face who you must be able to trust him. After all, look at all of the white Afrikaners and all of the Caucasians around the world who trust him. He must be okay. He is accepted and endorsed in some places in white society. You go ask Rush Limbaugh, might feel a little bit different about that. But, hey, he must be all right. Take a look at all the white supremacists. Take a look at all the bigots, all the Afrikaners. Take a look at all these people who absolutely adore him. He must be all right because they say he's okay. And your mama and your daddy have never said anything against him. He must be all right. Must be. Desmond Tutu said the decision to release de Kock represented, quote, a milestone on South Africa's road to reconciliation and healing. I pray that those whom he hurt, those from whom he took loved ones, will find the power within themselves to forgive him. Forgiving is empowering for the forgiver and the forgiven, and for all the people around them. But we can't be glib about it. It's not easy, Archbishop Tutu said. They sent your own elders in to lead you to the slaughter. It will not be a white face that betrays you. It will be a black face, an older black face, gray hairs on a black head that will lead you to a death. And will tell you that you are better for being dead. Who will tell you that them killing your loved ones needs to be forgotten. Now, everything you did to them, that needs to be remembered. But you killing their loved ones, well, them killing your loved ones, that just needs to be forgotten. We need to find the power to forget that our loved ones were killed. What is there to be gained from something like this? Question, has Archbishop Tutu ever said anything against the Nuremberg trials, I wonder? Has he ever said anything to condemn the Nuremberg trials or the Hague? Has he ever said anything to do that? Has he ever said that at all? Has he ever said that at all? Has he ever taken them to task for that? No. But he will come to you, the children. He will come to you and tell you that you need to, that the problem is not the Afrikaners. The problem is not that everything else was bad. The problem is you. The problem is you. The problem is that you will not forgive those who killed you. The problem is that you will not overlook their slaughtering you. The problem is that you are not doing enough. The problem is that you aren't trying enough. That the onus is on you. The onus is on you. You are the one who has the responsibility of closing the chapter on white supremacy. You are the one who has to close that chapter. It is not on the Afrikaners. It is not on white supremacy. They have done everything they can do. Why, they let you put them in jail, didn't they? And by the way, they didn't even come close to getting all of them. This was just one of thousands of them who should have been locked up and executed. One among thousands. One among thousands. But that's not what we do. We allow our elders to march us to annihilation. And that's a problem. Especially if you have been so brainwashed that you will not call that out when you hear it and see it. That is a problem. This is what's happening on African soil. This is what is happening in Africa with African people. That they are not only slipping, but they are desirous. They are actually anxious and eager to go back to the way things were. They are actually anxious and eager to have Afrikaners, to have apartheidists sitting on their necks and throttling them. They're actually anxious and eager and chomping at the bit and can't wait for it, because if as close as they can come to having their own white person is to be beaten and killed by one, they'll take what they can get. They'll take what they can get. And I'm not overstating it. I'm not overstating it. That is truthfully how they feel. If that's the cost of acceptance, well then, my husband, my children, my mother, my father, I guess you will simply have to die, because that is the cost of acceptance. And their acceptance matters more to me than any of you. And none of you are worth anything. Their acceptance, I'm willing to kill you all. I'm willing to wipe out all of you. All of you. Brothers and sisters, I ask you, who needs white supremacy when you got Africans like these? Tell me, what could white supremacy do to us that's any worse than what you just heard a bunch of Africans say to you? What could they possibly do that would be any worse? Tell me, what is it you're scared is going to happen that's so much worse than white supremacy? I'd like to know. I got a few more points to make here. I'll try to take a call or two before we get too far along, though I don't want to miss that. Caller from 254, you're on live with the Black Channel. Okay, caller from 254 has dialed in from Mars. Brothers and sisters, you gotta watch it with those Obama phones. I know he told you that you get 300 free minutes with your Nokia 1600. Please be very, very careful about calling in for us with that. These are the kinds of reactions that make the world mock us. I'm just going to be honest with you right now, because this is what the Black Channel does. If you want to know why it is that Mark O'Mara, Rudy Giuliani, and people with websites like Chimp Out and Niggermania and Stormfront, if you want to know what it is that emboldens them to make them think that they can just so overtly mock us, if you want to know what made Darren Wilson feel so empowered, Daniel Pentalio feel so empowered, if you want to know what it is, you heard it here. In the last hour of this broadcast, you've heard it. Those kinds of things, us reacting to people who kill us, talking about forgiveness and reconciliation with a child killer, those are the kinds of reactions that make the rest of the white supremacist world mock us, and it emboldens them to think we didn't go far enough. Because their goal with us is not integration. Their goal with us is not desegregation, reconciliation. The only Asian they got in mind for us is annihilation, obliteration, elimination. They don't have reconciliation on the menu. They tell you to say the words reconciliation. And you notice another thing? You notice that whenever black people are talking about it's time to punish white supremacy, isn't it very interesting how the forces of white supremacy, all of a sudden, they no longer want to talk about courts anymore? You see, when it's black people, the conversation only goes to courts. Bill Clinton. For those of you clowns in the 90s talking about he was the first black president, Bill Clinton. A lot of y'all are wiping some egg and other things off your faces. You see, these people, when they're talking about their punishment, they never use legal terms. They never use justice system terms. They never talk about courts. They never talk about those things at all. They never talk about that. They never talk about the need for prosecution when it's time for black people to put them on trial, whether it be Mississippi burning or anything else. They never do that when it's time for us to put them on trial. All of a sudden, they don't want to talk about courts. All of a sudden, they want to talk about religion. They want to talk about the love of Jesus Christ. They want to talk about spirituality. Now, there's no other aspect in life where they want to talk about spirituality, talk about religion. They never want to talk about that except where you are involved. When it's time for you to have power over them, the first thing they want to do is take it out of the socio-political economic realm. You can't touch them socially, you can't touch them politically, and you can't touch them economically. Now, anything else you can do? Okay, we'll go after physical. That's right. And we have a court system that has to deal with you physically. But remember, the courts are controlled by the politics, so you can't go after them politically. Oh, they only want to talk about spiritual things. They want to talk about non-physical punishments. A punishment that you cannot see or hear or anything else. Those are the only things they want to discuss. They never want to discuss a social, physical, economic, judicial punishment. The conversation always steers away from that. Always. They won't even let you discuss it for any length of time. We just won't discuss that. But for you, for you. Now, when it's time for them, when white society wants to talk about punishing black people, it's always judicially, always involving a court, always involving a judge, always involving police and guns. When they talk about punishing you, it is always physical, always police, always guns, always jail. There is no spiritual punishment for you. You see, when it's time to punish you, there are no psychologists to run in and say you were temporarily insane. You were too young to understand what you were doing. You are mentally incapable of understanding this trial. There's never an excuse. There is never a reasonable excuse that excludes you or excuses you from the court system. Never. You are never eligible to be excused from that. No matter what happens, no matter the circumstances, it will always be a court where they decide what they're going to do with you, and there will always be people with guns and jails to administer it. But there will be no non-physical punishment for you. You see, when you talk about punishing white supremacy, they talk to you about forgiveness, reconciliation, if you're a good Christian. You see, they try to find that point of commonality. Well, we're Christians and you're Christians. Yeah, but you're Christians who kill a bunch of people. Well, you should be better than us. No, I want to be just like you. Since you're an example of Christ, I want to be just like you. But they tell you, no, you have to be a different type of Christian than them. We are the vicious, bloodthirsty Christians, and that's wrong. We shouldn't be vicious, bloodthirsty, and the Lord is working with us on that. But don't you want to be better than us? Don't you want to be a better Christian than us? Don't you want to be more noble in the eyes of Christ than us? You don't want to be bad Christians like we are, do you? You want to be good Christians. So the first way you can prove that you're a good Christian is by not punishing us for our sins. But you've been punishing us, and we haven't even committed any sins. Yeah, but you want to be better than us, don't you? See, they use words like forgiveness and reconciliation and atonement. But when it's time to punish you, the words forgiveness and reconciliation never come up. They never march you into a court talking about forgiveness. When you get marched into court, it's probable cause, suspicious activity, bail denied, bail revoked, no hearing, mandatory minimum sentencing, all white jury, no parole, no probation, life sentence, no retrial, no review of the evidence, execution, death chamber, lethal injection, electric chair, gas chamber. Oh, for you, buddy, man, we gonna let it all hang out for you. But when it comes to dealing with them, well, there are rules that we should follow. There's a structure that we should follow. Why, there are morals and there are codes and principles, and we wouldn't want to violate that now, would we? When it's time to punish them. When it's time to punish them, that's the rules. When it's time to punish you, there ain't no rules. Even if the trial is rigged and it's false, it doesn't matter. Because their goal is to use the courts as a Nazi-style Holocaust death chamber. And black people are desirous to go to the chamber because they think, well, hey, it's a room full of non-black people. I'm in good shape. Hell, this is where I always wanted to be. Except for this orange jumpsuit. So, yeah, I like this. I like this a lot. Caller from 262, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Yes, hello, Jason. I wanted to know what's the topic that's been discussed late today.
You want to know what the topic is?
Yeah, I just got in.
Okay. Why don't you just listen in instead, okay?
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Caller from 954, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Yes, bro. How you doing?
What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is Bizzle. I'm out of South Florida.
And what's on your mind?
Oh, what was on my mind? What you were speaking about? There's two different situations how they treat one part of the class, the system of black and white folks. I noticed that throughout the history of the U.S., when white folks or someone go crazy and commit some crazy crime, whether it be at a McDonald's or a restaurant or a school, they will, and it's white folks that do the transgression, they will treat it totally different. They will, right off the bat, start talking about the person must have some problem. They have to look into it and get some psychiatrists to, check these people out. Like, they just cannot accept that image of themselves. And then they'll turn right around and go and bulldoze these buildings where the destruction was caused at. And I noticed throughout time they've always done that. Just like there in Colorado with that old crazy boy murdered all those people at that theater. They spent the whole first hour cleaning his image up. And they're still doing it till this day. And it's always been that way. When it's young black men or black people in general, you get the worst of the worst. Just like it's all due and expected, and it's just amazing how it just keeps going on and on. It never changes.
Well, here's the real question, though. Why is it that it never changes?
My opinion on why? I would say the media, we don't control any media.
Why not?
Media.
Why not?
Most of that's, well, I guess that's a historical thing. It probably goes pretty much like everything else in this society. We're dragging our feet on controlling any of the important means in this society.
Okay.
Through bad leadership. Well, I can't say bad leadership. We've been listening to bad leadership all these years and being docile, kind of like what you were saying. We bow down and we twinkle toe out of every situation we get in by marching. It's always a march and always somebody to come and soothe your nerves and to put you into a state of being docile.
Now, there's the real reason that it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed because we haven't demanded that it change. When somebody is able to rape your wife, kill your children, and you respond to them talking about forgiveness, tell me, what is his incentive to stop raping your wife and killing your children? What's the incentive for him to quit?
I agree with that.
Because you see, forgiveness and reconciliation only work with someone who wants to stop doing what they've been doing. But what do you do if you're dealing with somebody who their goal is not to stop? Their goal is to keep doing it until they've killed all of you down to the last one. How do you reconcile with him? And furthermore, why would you even want to? Why do you even want to reconcile with him? Why? Why do you even desire to do that? And we need to take a look at our own psyche. Why do we have so many people among us who their goal in life is to reconcile with our killers?
Right. They've always had us reconcile and seek for forgiveness when it's white on white crime, or they just usually drop the whole thing about within the same day. No one wants to talk about what when they assert themselves to these crazy things. But I agree with what you're saying. A lot of it's been put into our heads. It's just we still got that doggone mentality, that slave mentality in our head. It's still there. I grew up with it. I was raised thinking like a European, a white European also, throughout my time. And you mentioned certain things trigger, and you see it in the top, you see it in your mind, the way that you were taught. We're not taught the same way as a lot of the people who the system favors. Like I said, they look at it different. Anytime, it's kind of like when you open up your show. Things are treated different when you go to court, when it's put on trial, when it's put on television. They treat everything different. When it comes to them, it's just they have the white gloves on. It hasn't changed.
We as a people, if it has progressed and deteriorated to the point that we are allowing this to occur, people talking about going back to Africa, I asked the question tonight, what exactly are you going back to? First of all, because most of us have never even, you're not originally from Africa, your lineage is, but you weren't born on African soil. You say, well, I got to go back to Africa. Okay, fine. But even if you as African people return to Africa, tell me, what exactly is it that you believe that you are going back to? What exactly
you want me
is
to comment
it?
on? Would you like me to comment on that?
Sure you can.
Okay, throughout my time on this earth, growing up, even to this day, if you're around Caucasian people, when they speak about going to Europe, anywhere in Europe or anywhere where their people come from, people are proud to hear that. They're proud to hear of it in the same manner, and they've always known their roots. And to this day, it's not a controversy. It's not something that we combat with in a conversation. They don't do that. It's just what you mentioned, France, even the black folks going to France or Italy, we just get so giddy and so happy. There's always a combat when you bring up that term Africa. From the time I was small, it was almost like a bad word to come out of my mouth. But all my white friends, when we got in high school, they broke their necks getting over there. They all went. No one said anything to the black students. This is back in the early 70s. And they were going on over there just like they do today. When it comes to us, it's viewed different, handled different, laughed upon, always controversial. You can speak about even traveling there for anything. When you get over to Africa or the continent of Africa, you'll find out there's so many Europeans over there, it's unbelievable. Even on their planes are full. But there's something that we've never been tied together. We're so distant apart from each other, and that's part of most of that's our fault. Some of that's our forefathers' fault for not even teaching us about ourselves. Because I grew up learning probably like you did. I learned all about the Caucasian and European. Everything was European in my mind when I grew up.
But it goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than that, because the reason why I do this is because, in the words of Dr. John Henry Clark, I wish to bring Africa into focus. I want to bring Africa into its proper focus, and I can't do that if I don't get you all to actually understand the true state of Africa. And I say tonight what nobody has said, because nobody has had the courage to say it. Brother, this is not new in Africa. This is the way it has always been. And by always, I mean before the Europeans showed up. Before 1441. Before Henry the Navigator. Before any of these Europeans showed up, we had this mentality then. And they took a look at us and saw that, if you push them enough, they won't push back. It's not in their culture to do that. So hell, why shouldn't we just steamroll them? Why shouldn't we do that? I've said it for years now, and I will not apologize. There is a component in African culture that has always been comfortable with being exploited. And there have been two major factions in African society: the one that will not bow and the one that bows to everyone. And that is the enemy today. That component in ourselves as Africans that has been taught and enculturated and has adopted a legacy of bowing, a legacy of being somebody's servant. That is what needs to be done away with. That is what needs to be gone.
I agree with you 100%.
And as African people, we have refused to do that.
I noticed that, I've always known that dealing with so-called black cultures here in the States, whether it's been in the history of New York or wherever, we've always been so polite, so generous for them to come and doing this so-called segregation and Jim Crow. Whites were always invited to come to our clubs and our juke joints and places up there in Harlem and places like that, the after party. But we couldn't dare go into their places. We've always been that, like you said, goes back, way, way back. And they traveled around the world and colonized every group of people there is. Most of the people of color have always been inviting. And they walk in and they survey and they size them up and say, oh, this is some pretty nice real estate. These people are pretty docile, and you give them just like what they did with the so-called, how they told the story about the American Indian with the trinkets. And just to put in perspective, that's been done over and over again all around the world. They just marched in. The whole world was colonized by a small group of people. Small group of people. The whole entire world, except for Russia.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Well, the Russians are that small group of people. But here's the problem, though, brother. The problem is our people are desirous to be occupied. We've always had a component among us that had a taste for being somebody's lackey. And that's what we have now. How do you convince somebody who thinks the plantation is their home to leave it? It's one thing if somebody's on the plantation and they see it as a plantation, but what do you do when he sees the plantation as his home? Well, I don't know how you're going to convince him to leave. Because he's already told you that by definition, he is not just here or residing here. He that is his home. He belongs here. I belong in this place.
You're speaking in the past and the present, right?
Yes. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to get people to start. There needs to be an internal conflict, an internal conquest. That little white supremacist on our shoulder who tells us that it's okay to bow, that we're supposed to see ourselves as their sidekick, that there's some sort of glamour in being the Robin to their Batman, that as long as we're their hoe, then we're okay because we have a place. We need to have an internal conflict in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds as black people. We need to go to fight against that. That is what needs to happen. We don't need a truth and reconciliation commission between Africans and non-Africans. We need a truth and justice movement among Africans, where we finally deal with the individuals among us who have simply accepted that they are on Massa's side and this is what it's going to be, and we need to deal with it from that perspective. That everybody who's just going to be with Massa, we need to make sure we take care of that and that gets handled. Because the Chris Browns are the slaves. The Rihannas are the slaves. The Nicki Minaj's, they're screwed up head cases, and they are the slaves. And they are pleased and happy and honored to remain the slaves. And they're never going to change.
True.
They are never going to change. They're never going to do anything different than they're doing now, because their job and their purpose is to contaminate our society. Because you see, Nicki Minaj has no effect on white society. She has none. There are no white women who desire to be Nicki Minaj. None. You see, as black people, what you said about we've always allowed them into our clubs, but why do we even do that? If we don't have access to yours, why the hell you got access to ours? Other than from a capitalistic standpoint, I understand that. But as far as you setting up a club and calling shots, it can't be. But it's like when I hear black folk talking about Eminem. I mean, I just want to slap the teeth out of their mouths, sitting up here talking about Eminem being a great rapper. What the hell are you talking about? It's physically impossible for him to be a rapper. That's like saying a white samurai. It's physically impossible. You can be a great swordsman. You will never be a samurai. That's like saying that I'm a black mafioso. I am a black member of La Cosa Nostra. I'm a black member of the Outlaws biker gang. I'm a black member of the KKK. It's physically impossible. You cannot be. It's physically impossible for you to do that. But we've got a bunch of black folk, and what they do is they temper every sentence they say, and they temper every statement they say, looking out the side of their eyes to see, wait a minute, how many white people are going to be affected by what I'm saying right now? I better temper it and limit it because I've got potential white friends, white fans, white customers. I better at least say that, well, I don't have a problem with Eminem. Why, sure, he can be the best rapper in the world. I don't have a problem with that. Hold on, Negro. No. You go and dance the Sambo Shuffle to the left. As an African, rap music is not rap music. And don't you dare call it an American art form. We have never been accepted as Americans. Don't you dare sit up here and try to tell me that what we created through our genius by overcoming you, that our overcoming you is now your art form. The hell it is. You tell me what Marshall Mathers from Missouri, everybody talks about Detroit. Is he originally from Detroit? Everybody wants to talk about that.
Sure
Marshall Mathers. Will someone please tell me what Marshall Mathers has in common with Africa Bambaataa and Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash? I'll wait for that one.
Yeah.
You tell me what in the hell he has in common with those of us in our late 30s, and he's what, 41 now? You tell me what in the hell he's got in common with us. When has he suffered police brutality? When has he suffered segregation? When has he suffered societal oppression? Judicial mistreatment? When has he suffered that? And tell me what he is doing. If you're going to say that he's part of the hip-hop world, tell me why is it he's silent about white supremacy? He says nothing about white supremacy. At least you could give MC Search that much. Oh, wait a minute, MC Search is Jewish. For those of you for everybody who wants to talk about third base all the time, by the way, MC Search is Jewish. By the way, so MC Search didn't have a problem taking white supremacy to task. You show me any rhymes that Eminem has put together where he's talking about white supremacy. I'll wait. I can show you one where he talks about black hoes. I can show you that one. If you want to get down, let's get down. I can show you that one. You show me where he's talked about white supremacy or a talk about white supremacy is coming. We got a bunch of basted and flambéed Negroes around here who are just loving it because they think that that is the price of admission. I'll accept that. Iggy Azalea, baby, your chances of becoming a rapper are about the same as my chances of flying to the moon by flapping my arms. There is no way in the world you will ever be a rapper, Iggy Azalea. You can never, ever be a rapper any more than an elephant can become a hummingbird. You cannot do it. It's physically impossible. But black people love saying that.
Though. Yeah, that's the trick of Hollywood, though. They can create the Beatles. They're sitting around waiting for the next culture to come from black folks again. They'll wait till the hip hop thing. They're gonna took it over already, but they're waiting for it because black folks are so creative. They don't like to get too far away from black folks. That's why
they lift things. They use what we contribute for capitalism. They just use it as a marketing tool. But they just lift whatever it is that we create a value. Everything else, they leave it where it is. All they do is sit up here and pretend to be black folk. But you notice when the police show up, all of a sudden it's, yes, Mr. Officer. No, my name is Marshall Mathers. Yes, that's me. Yes, Marshall Mathers. Sir, I don't even know the rest of these people right here. Dre sitting up here. Eminem, what you talking about? Sir, I don't. Well, this is Andre. Yes, his name's Mr. Young. I'm sure you know his record, but I don't have a record like that. So. I'm just a performer. I'm just a musician. I don't get in trouble like that. And Iggy Azalea, same damn thing. You let some damn Australian come over here. You show me an African that can come to America and start playing country music and have white folk bowing to him. I'll wait. You show me an African who could do that. Come from Africa, singing country songs, and watch all the country and western people talk about how great he is. You tell me, how much marketing would it cost for us to get them to accept him? Even if you want to say that Iggy Azalea had it bought for her and the corporations paid for it, you tell me how much money would it cost for us to transform an African into a popular country music singer in America? How much money would we have to spend to make that happen?
That would be one of those Hollywood tricks again.
Okay, but how much would that Hollywood trick cost?
Oh, today's standard, I guess those people who run Hollywood would have to weigh it out, see if it's worth it or not. I'm
Brother,
sure if it was,
there is no amount of money that you could spend to get those people to give you their identity. Now, they didn't make country music, we did. But now that they've hijacked it, there is no amount of money that you can give them to get them to give you back that piece of their identity that they've grafted onto themselves. There's no amount of money you can do that. None.
Yeah,
None.
All that music comes out the same family. All that music comes from us. All those different genres of music come from us. They got all that British stuff that came out of, rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat. They had nothing to do with anything R&B, country western, gospel. That comes from black, whatever you want to call black folks. All of it. Ray Charles, most of his albums were country western. Ray Charles had more country western albums than probably just about anybody.
See, they try to limit us when they tell history. You have to understand, white supremacy loves its ability to lie. Even in the they got a documentary on. You can go watch it on YouTube. As a matter of fact, it's about Eugene de Kock on YouTube, and it's like a 26-minute documentary that was done by some Brits.
Uh-huh.
And even in there, they're sitting up here glorifying him at the beginning of it. You see, white supremacy considers it to be a great thing to lie to you. They have always valued and treasured their ability to look people in the eye and lie to them, to get them to repeat and regurgitate and accept the lie. They have always valued that. Always. They think that's a great thing. They think that's something to be proud of, to get you to sit up here and accept that. That's why individuals like the fraud and black white supremacists, they think that if I can lie to people, that's a great thing. They think that is one of the powers, that if I can lie to people, I'm really powerful. So they tell the lie that all we created as black people was jazz. Now they'll give us jazz and they'll give us the blues, but then they don't want to talk about anything else. That we are not responsible for, quote, the great American art form of jazz. We are responsible for all of them. We created every single one because they did not have the cultural roots to be able to do it. Their cultural roots take them back to Europe, which means they can't escape anything but ballroom music and waltzes. They can't escape it because they can't dig into their past and find anything else. We can dig into our past and find treasure troves of things. They dig into theirs and only find two. That's it. That's all they've got to dig in.
See, they call their art classics. Classic music and classic bands.
But why?
They never looked at anything because they have to be on top of everything.
Okay, but that's because they value. But that is because they value what they've created. They're letting you know that what they have created has entered a realm where it has become so valuable it is now priceless. That there is no amount of money that you can give. That this thing is so valuable it defies pricing. It defies valuation. In black society, we see everything that we have that is of value as a bargaining chip. That if I'm willing to whore off rap music and if I'm willing to whore out my jazz music, can I get to stand on stage with one of y'all if I give this up? Brother, do you know how many Negroes there are out there? I mean, I'm not just talking about just T.I. I'm not talking about just him. He's just the latest mascot. T.I., Dre. We can go down the list. They're just the latest mascots. Lined up.
Right.
Because they realize that they are employees and they're trying to do something that's pleasing to their employer. They want to get back into that corporate structure. And you got a bunch of dudes who are failures in life who are trying to get a job at a corporation and done fooled most of y'all into believing that they're rappers. And Damon Dash was sure right about that. Most of these guys are employees who have fooled everybody into thinking that they are self-employed, and they are not. They just want to get a record deal, a record contract, and keep the record contract that they've got. That's Jay-Z is not trying to be self-employed. Jay-Z's got a job, and he's doing everything on this earth to keep it. At no time has he ever tried to challenge Def Jam, ever, and he's never going to.
Right. Right. He got that 360 deal. He's an owned slave for sure. And
But
he's up in the White House too.
But at least he's to the White House. But at least he's got it. At least he's got
He
that.
can go to the White House.
At least he's got
Harry
that.
Belafonte can't get invited to the White House, but he can. And Jay-Z is an ex drug dealer and hustler and everything else. He up in the White House.
Yeah, but well, Harry Belafonte.
Snoop Dogg is too.
Neither one of them should be in the
Snoop
White
Dogg's
House.
invited to
Marcus Garvey can't get a pardon, but Jay-Z can get invited to the White House. But here's the real issue, though, brother. At least he's got that to show for it. Jay-Z has sold his soul and prostituted himself, but at least he's got a trip to the White House and a couple of concerts to show for it. Black folk are out here whoring out rap music, selling out our legacy and our children. And what do we have to show for it?
Don't control any of it.
Well, I'm saying, but tell me, where's our concert? Where's our trip to the White House? At least Jay-Z got that. Tell me, what are
Snoop
we?
Dogg got it too.
We're selling it. We're selling out the same thing. What are we getting for it?
Well, what do you think about when Jeremiah Wright was trying to do what I expected him to do, throughout his time, and how they since he bucked the system and how fast Oprah and the president, soon to be president, ran from the church toward their membership because he was teaching a black theology. Because
here's the problem with that, okay?
Because you're talking about value.
Yeah, the problem with that is we do not have a litmus test. As black people, we refuse to have a litmus test. Dr. Claude Anderson says it better, a code of conduct. We don't have a code amongst ourselves as a people. Because if you had a code, then you would be able to enforce a litmus test. And we don't have one. We don't have a litmus test as black people. We don't have that. We don't have it. Now, if we did, then things like that couldn't occur. And you know why? Because if you had a litmus test, then everybody would be required to come and stand front and center and pledge their allegiance. At what time did Barack Obama, in this so-called African theology church, at what time did he ever stand up and pledge his allegiance to Africans in America? At what time did he ever do that? At what time did he ever stand up and declare himself a Christian warrior against white supremacy? When did that ever happen?
It never happened.
Now, here's the real point.
It never happened.
He was a member of Jeremiah Wright's church for how long? And Jeremiah Wright never insisted on that. I got a congressman from Louisiana right now, Steve Scalise. I'm a citizen of the state of Louisiana, citizen in quotations. Steve Scalise is a congressman from here. Here he is. I think he's the majority whip now. And they got him talking to a damn white supremacist convention. Now, he pledged his allegiance. That's what his people demanded of him. And his voting record shows that he meant every word he said. Now, you tell me, where in black society does that occur? We can go from Trent Lott to Strom Thurmond to Steve Scalise to Jim Allen, to Jesse Helms. We can go down the damn list. Everywhere you go, their people demand that you prove your bona fides. Their people demand that you prove your allegiance to the cause. Tell me, in black society, where are we doing that? Where have we ever done that? You want to try to condemn Obama after he's left your church. Buddy, the time to be ferreting him out was before he ever got that far along. When he first came into that church, because...
At that time.
But you understand... No. Why do you say that?
I said he's been a politician.
Yes. But I'm saying...
He's been a politician even when he was a junior senator.
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey was a membership. She was a member there also, and she ran at the same time because she didn't want a Bill Cosby syndrome to happen to her, because they can break. I don't need to tell you, they can break you off a piece when they want to if you don't abide by that white supremacy thing.
Well, here's the thing, though, brother.
You take off running.
Barack Obama is this racially ambiguous individual who has no ties and no roots to the black community. Now, you knew full damn well when he walked into Trinity, you knew full damn well that he was trying to establish some bona fides in the community. He was trying to establish some black credibility in the community because he didn't have any. He was married to Michelle, and that was the only thing he had. You didn't ask him about his previous girlfriends. You didn't ask him about, have you ever had a black friend? Why is it that we have no pictures of you? You can't point to one black person that you know other than this woman. This is the only black person that you can point to who has any ties to you, and you just met her.
You're right.
So at what point did we ever demand anything of him? And I'm telling you, at no point did we ever demand anything of him. And I will go even further than that. And I will say that the fact that he shunned the black community actually represented resume enhancement to the black people at Trinity Church. And I stand by that statement.
Yeah, that's right.
The fact that he spent so many decades outside of black society, as far as they were concerned, that was that made him better than them. That he would come and bless them with his presence, as far as they were concerned, he represented a step up for them, not the other way around. And the fact that they never questioned or challenged his credentials is all the evidence you need.
Well, since he looks like so much like us, we accept people thinking that they're black just because they are so-called in the physical. But anybody can pull that off like the doggone sheep and the wolf in the sheepskin. So we were all excited about it, and that's what happened. He pulled it off pretty well. Not that our little 12% got him in office, but everybody keep talking about a black president, but I know his history probably like you do. I've done my homework. On him. So I got questions about him also.
But the problem is we as black people try to ask questions when it's too late. Black folk want to try to fix our...
Talking about
well, no, I'm just talking about in general, though. We as black people want to try to fix things when it's too late. We want to ask questions. You know, we want to try to fix our problems when it no longer matters. We gave up all of our black businesses, and we are just now in the 21st century talking about a black economic base. Well, damn it, you already had one. You already had a black economy. You gave it up for a pat on the head, and now here you are in the 21st century talking about, man, we need a black economy. Negro, you had one. We wanted to integrate and give it up, and after it's all gone, now we want to talk about a thriving black economy, now that you don't have it anymore. With black females, they want to wait until they got 4 and 5 kids by 4 and 5 bums. They got tattoos from head to toe, stretch marks from their eyebrows to their toenails, and talking about now I want to be a good wife. Now I don't want to do all that hoish stuff I used to do. I don't want to do that no more. Now that you're ragged out, now when your body was firm and tight and everything sat where it was supposed to be, oh, I'm going to be a fool. Now I want to be sensible. Black males, we want to sit up here and wait until we're in our late 30s and late 40s to start getting our money together, to start getting our act together and start trying to build some assets. We want to wait until we're old and rickety and the health problems start setting in. In other words, when we're young and could have used our opportunity in our good health to get it together, we ain't gonna do it then. We got too much fun to be having. We want to wait until nobody cares. I mean, granted, money does work in a man's favor in a way that is different for females, but we waste a good 20 years building nothing, and then we've only got another 30 or 40 years left in the tank to start talking about building an economy. When we were at our youngest and our most vibrant and we had the most social connections, we build nothing. We wait until we're older and our social circle is small. We talk, because that's what we always say as black males in our 30s and 40s. I don't talk to that many people. I don't fool with that many people. What that means is your social circle is smaller than it's ever been. Now I want to start building an economy and get my finances together now that I don't have as many social connections as I used to have. This is what we keep doing.
Right.
We keep waiting until
Right.
it no longer matters to get our act together. Now everybody wants to start being suspicious of Obama. When I said it 6 years ago, I was wrong. But now that he sat up here and stepped over the dead bodies of Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and Eric Garner, it's become a Holocaust out here. Now you all want to speak against him. Now we want to have a litmus test. Now we want to have a standard. The time to be holding his feet to the fire and having a standard was when he was sitting at Trinity. That was the time to get him to pledge his allegiance right then, right there. But you know what the problem is? We got a bunch of slave-minded Negroes, and they'll sit up here and tell you, what does he owe the black community? I should vote for him for no reason. You just sat up here and said there's no reason for you to vote then. If your goal is I don't expect anything from him, then there's no reason to vote at all. Because do you expect anything from Mitt Romney? But we have a bunch of ignorant, half-brained, inbred, brain-dead thinking Negroes who will say things like that, and we don't hold them to any standard. A person should be lampooned and run out of the room. We should have memes everywhere. We should have hashtags everywhere. We should have comedy skits. We should have television shows making fun of those people. Those people should be the dunces and the goons and the pariahs of black society. You talked about the media. You know why the Jews are all over the media? They're all over the media because they understood that it was media that led them to the gallows. It was media that led them to the gas chambers. It was the newspapers and the press and Adolf Hitler's mastery of film and image through Joseph Goebbels that got them at that place. And they said, we'll be damned if we're going to allow this dragon to run around without a leash on him anymore. If it's going to be out there, we're going to control it. And they have used it to make sure that you've never forgotten the Holocaust. Black people, on the other hand, have used the media to elevate Eminem and Iggy Azalea
Right.
and the rest of them.
Right. And since you brought up that thing about Germany and the media, what happened with so-called black folk during the doggone 50s, the 40s, 50s, and the 60s, and the 70s, what happened media-wise is, and politically-wise is, when you compare it to Germany and everything else on this earth, or how they talk about the Chinese, they call everything else a human rights issue. Ours has always been a little civil rights issue. Civil rights. So it wasn't, the world courts couldn't even touch it. Civil rights, and they still call it civil rights. A civil rights issue. So all these other big issues, these agendas that they got around the world, even dealing with the Chinese today, or dealing with Saudi Arabia, they always talk about human rights. They brought that up about Michelle Obama not getting her hand shook over there in another society, another culture, when they got mad at LeBron James for touching the Queen's daughter-in-law or grandchild daughter-in-law. Or don't touch the Queen. Like when she touched the Queen, you're not supposed to touch the Queen. So we'll bow down to those cultures. We'll bow down and how dare she touch the Queen? How dare LeBron put his hands on the doggone royal family? But they get mad at about Saudi Arabia men not shaking women's hand, which is a westernized gentleman's handshake. It don't belong in. It just belongs to Europe anyway. It came out of doggone Europe. That gentleman's shake, that handshake, and men used to not shake. Even the Europeans didn't shake women's hands back in the day when they created that culture called ladies and gentlemen. They used to curtsy, bow, or just, they didn't do a gentleman's handshake. Now they're upset because Saudi Arabia men won't shake her hand.
Well,
They spread it all over the place.
this is the kind of
different society.
well, this is the kind of inappropriate behavior that Dr. Claude Anderson always referred to. And my question to everybody is, who is holding black people accountable for inappropriate behavior? Who's doing it?
Well, there's a lot of money to make off of what we've been doing all these decades. They make a lot of money off of not having appropriate behavior.
Well, I mean, but I'm just saying, where are we?
Blood stuff.
Who's holding them? Who's holding people accountable? Who's holding them accountable? I'll let you have the last word.
Who's holding black folks accountable?
If anybody.
Appropriate behavior? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if anybody.
Okay.
Who's holding? Where is our overstructure that holds people accountable?
Well, culturally speaking, I know Cosby's in trouble now because he wanted accountability, and you see what's going to happen to him. Being trying to be accountable, trying black folks be accountable for television, be accountable for good programming. They don't want that. They want us to continue to do what we've been doing all these decades. They no money into the other way around. They got to have us still being the buffoons. They make money off the buffoons.
Well, as a people, we need a structure, an organization, whatever that holds people accountable. We desperately do need that. Thank you very much for checking in with us here, brother, tonight, and definitely do call back in again for us. We're glad to have you. Let me take caller from 786. You're on live with the Black Channel.
Black first.
What's on your mind, Lonnie?
That was just a great call where he said I had a lot on my mind and he touched on, man, so much of it. But yeah, South Africa is gone. There's 90% of the population is black, and they've had 20 years to get it together. They had a complete chance, so much, and it's just they're just turning back the clock completely on everything. They don't care, and it's like that here in America, and that's sad. That was sad to read. I read the story earlier, and that just Nelson Mandela just died not too long ago, and this is the legacy that all of that's going to come down to is forget about all the struggles and all the people who fought to get rid of black people just being murdered in the street. And they're so ready it's 20 years ago. You just had apartheid's been gone, so-called been gone 20 years, and they're already in the forgiveness mode. And it comes from that same civil rights generation that's worldwide.
I submit to you not that we entered this forgiveness mode. I submit to you not that we entered it. I submit to you that we never actually left it. Black people have never actually entered a state where we were trying to assert ourselves. I mean, I ask you, you show me another group of people who respond to war crimes and a Holocaust, which is what the Black Posse and the South African government committed. You show me another group of people who responded to a Holocaust with forgiveness. Tell me, who? And furthermore,
nobody, because that's stupid.
But furthermore, why would you even want to respond to... How in the hell do you respond to somebody killing your brother talking about, well, he said he's sorry, so I guess he's a good dude now. Really?
You shouldn't respond like that. They'll only respond like that to white people. If it's a black person, they're going to hold it against them the rest of their lives. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't even have to be killing their brother. It could be stepping on their shoes. It could be scratching their car. It could be saying something that they didn't like. It wouldn't even have to be egregious, and they will hold that against another black person for the rest of their lives. But whatever white society does to black people, we need to be better, and we need to forgive. And, the Bible teaches forgiveness, and we do it for ourselves. We don't forgive for others. We forgive for ourselves. Well, we're forgiving, and we're not getting anything for our forgiveness. But we getting cracked over the head again. So why we keep forgiving people? Why are you forgiving anybody when you're just getting cracked over the head? You might as well just keep on getting cracked over the head. Why whine about it? If all you're going to do is seek for forgiveness. But then why don't we have that forgiveness with each other so that we can come back? Because that keeps us divided amongst ourselves for any single reason. And you only have to say one thing or do one thing to us, and we don't show the forgiveness, and white society don't show us any forgiveness in anything. You say the littlest thing, you bag the wrong horse, and white society will come down on you and say, and blanket you for anything, for the most egregious thing. It could be the man who got shot getting out of the car, had his hands up. He had been arrested years ago and turned around his life, but that one little thing, white supremacy, held right against him. But here's a man who's killed hundreds of people and 19 years in prison, and they're already talking about forgiveness, and here's his spouse hugging him. He has remorse in his eyes. But if there would have been one black person that would have bumped her, she would have been angry at him for all of eternity.
Since when?
Wrong. We have backwards.
Since when did having remorse in your eyes excuse you from the consequences of murder? Since when did that become the standard? Well, he's sorry for what he did. I mean, he didn't just kill one person by accident. He didn't just kill one person on purpose. He was personally involved in the murder of over 60 people and the torture of dozens more. He was personally involved in the murder of over 60 people. I mean, that's not... so after the first couple of murders, you're like, well, that's all relative at this point. I mean, they're just darkies anyway, you know. They would be just... I mean, the Israeli Mossad hunted down Nazis and still does to this day. That's still their side job to this day. Nazis are still in hiding to this day because they know if they ever stick their head up, there's going to be an Israeli sniper somewhere, or a hit squad, or a bomb squad that's going to park a grenade or a bullet in their brains. But as black people, we have conditioned ourselves. Now, I want to make this very, very clear to you, because it's one thing for somebody to knock you down. You didn't choose to get knocked down, but you choose to stay down. And as a people, we have made it a cultural practice to stay down. We have made it our cultural practice to go along to get along. And this is why most black women have 4 and 5 babies by 4 and 5 goons. And some Negro whose foot stays up her behind. And this is why black males got baby mamas by the same 3 and 4 chicks, and he's in and out of court on child support, but still running over to her house because there is no standard. This is why you can have Eminem in the black community, but you can't show any similar black person in white society. This is why you can have Asian hair shops in black society, but there are no black businesses in Asian society. You don't have that. It's not there. There is no code of conduct, and we don't enforce one, and we're not asking to get one. We're not asking to get one. We as a people have foregone this, and we need to have some type of institutional structure in place that holds people accountable when they do things that are against the interests of black society. We need to have an institution in place, first of all, that deals with this ongoing bedwench Sambo culture that we have going on right now, where black folk are all waiting like we're all in the minor leagues, waiting to get called up to the big leagues of white supremacy. Hopefully there's a seat and Bill Cosby's getting knocked off. Hopefully that seat's available for me now. That's what a lot of black folk are thinking. Well, Cosby's getting knocked off. That leaves room for me. Do you know how many black folk are pleased and eager and quite happy to just be the token Negro, knowing that they are the token? We call it playing the game. And do you all have any idea how many black folk there are that are eager and anxious and can't wait to play the game? They don't even care just being, even knowing they are a pawn, and they're cool with it. They are cool with knowing that they are a pawn. That does not bother them. Doesn't bother them at all. The entertainment industry is filled to bursting with them. The porn industry, Hollywood, stage plays, education, politics. We are absolutely overflowing with individuals who know they're going to get exploited, know they're going to get whored out, and can't wait to be number 3. Not being number 1. They can't wait to be number 3. They are fighting viciously and slashing everything around them to be not number one, not even number two, number three. Number three.
Yeah, that was the point of integration, not to raise up black society and build anything, but to have a few people make it over through to white society, make it in and just be just a few. Just like about a year and a half ago, the University of Alabama fraternity that they were suing because the fraternity was all white and they wanted black memberships. And how many are they going to give you? They're only going to give you a few. So you're going to be happy with 2, 3 black members just because we're there. We have 3. And they're going to pick their coons to be there. So you're not really, as black people, we're not even really represented. We just have, as far as our culture and what we believe in to do something for us, we're just represented by that's a black person. Well, we can't call it racism that because we have a black person here now. So we're okay with that because we don't even need 1% of us to be involved in white society. We could use 0.5% and say, well, we're in there, we integrated, we're in the mix. We have 2 or 3 black people on this job and or working for this company, so we're happy to be there. Instead of building our own to where we're 95% of what's around us. It's the point of just wanting to be with white people that we can't get away from. It's just like last year, the Jews still on the Germans. You can't eat. They can't even get SSI. They can't even get Social Security. They can't do anything legally. They made sure they got their pass, and that was 70 years ago. They're never going to forget that. And in 70 years from now, they're going to be going after the descendants of those Nazis. They're not going to stop. But us, as soon as something happens, let's forgive George Zimmerman. Opposed to, let's go after George Zimmerman. If Trayvon Martin was Jewish, George Zimmerman would be in the ground right now. Because they wouldn't let something like that slide. If he was Mexican, he would be in the ground right now. They wouldn't let that slide. But the first thing that we want to do is go right to where we're not getting any justice and then come around and wonder, we didn't get any more justice again. So let's forgive and go on to the next one. Opposed to they're not going to give us any justice, let's get our own justice. Because somebody should be able to do whatever they want to George Zimmerman, and as soon as you put a black person on the jury, not guilty, I have reason to believe that he was threatened. But no, we don't do that. George Zimmerman gets that, everybody else gets that, but black people, we only get forgiveness everywhere. They forgive everybody for anything that they do, they say to you, as long as they're not black. Because then we have to look at white people and say, well, we're forgiving black people and they're going to get chastised for it, so they don't want to get chastised from white people for forgiving black people, so just hold it against black people only and we'll give you a pat on the head.
Why would you want to be a member of a white fraternity? To the extent that you have to... Why would you even want to have to sue somebody to be a part of their social club? Why would you even want that? Why would you even want to have that? Question. I mean, let me tell you right now, if I knew those fellas, I'm talking about the black males who are suing this fraternity, if I knew them, I would publicly renounce them and say I want nothing to do with them ever again. I am not gonna beg. I am not gonna scream. Damn sure not gonna spend my hard-earned money and sue to sit up here and go to your damn clubhouse. I'm not gonna do that. Because that's not power. You see, if black folk actually, what they're letting you know, brother, is that they don't consider their own fraternity to be worth a damn. They don't consider any fraternity that they have to be worth anything. They don't. And that's why they're trying to get into these guys, because the white ice is still colder in their minds, in their eyes. So here we are 60 years after civil rights started, and black males, still young black males, still acting like their fathers and grandfathers, begging for acceptance. Why don't you have your own fraternity and actually dedicate your fraternity to power, wealth, and influence? Why is it that you don't do that? And that is because in black males' eyes, in this society, brainwashed and institutionalized as they are, $1 billion is worth less than $1 million if it is a white man who has the $1 million. These black males could have $1 billion and will value that $1 billion as nothing. And they will fight tooth and nail to get the white man's million. Because that's what they want. Because his money has value, but your money doesn't.
Yeah. Because his money brings out, it's supposed to bring out that you're part of them now. They accept you. He's giving you this $1 million, so that's acceptance.
Well, what it is that in our minds, if he has it, that means there was something special that he did to get it. So if I can get it from him, then that special characteristic is now bestowed upon me. If I can wear those shoes, if I can wear that hat, if I can conk and perm my hair, then that ability they have, see, it's more pronounced with the women, but it's not different. It's more pronounced with them, but it's not any real distinction from it. The black women, you see them with these long weaves on their heads and stuff, and they take the same goofy, buck-eyed, buck-tooth poses that they see these blonde women making. And it's very clear, you think that you look like her. You think that you look like Christy Brinkley. You think that you look like, Kate Moss. That's what you think you look like. That's why you got that long-ass mess on your head. You think you look like her. Well, if I can get the hair like hers, I will have that importance bestowed upon me. And these are black males who are showing you that they don't actually exist for a reason, because they want entrance into the white fraternity because they believe that a white fraternity will give them something they don't currently have. Purpose. Because black males get together in a group for no reason. And that's why it's so easy for some mess to jump off. Because we get together in a group but without a cause or a purpose. And I dare say to you all, this 7 a.m. is the first time in many, many moons that black people have gotten together in a room and in a group for a purpose that was completely and totally black directed and was not for the purposes of seeing a movie. You do not come to see 7 a.m. for a movie. You come to see 7 a.m. for everything else. But it's gathering us together in a large group for a purpose. And black people don't actually know how to do that because we don't actually have a purpose. Get us together and get us to start. When white men get together in a group, what do you have? You have the Bankers Consortium. You have the Petroleum Members Consortium. You have the Lenders Consortium. You have, Associated General Contractors. Try saying that 3 times fast. You have the steel workers. You see, white men get together in a group and they get together for a purpose. They have a purpose for getting together. And it usually involves refining and increasing their power, wealth, and influence. Black men do not get together for the same purpose. We can get together in groups, but if we get together in groups, it's either going to be to chase hoes or to find some mess. But as far as somebody telling us to get together in a group to do something for our own benefit, no, we're not. That's not really something that keeps our attention. So they think that if they can just get entry into this white fraternity, that will bestow the purpose on them that has been missing all this time. The white guys have a purpose. And they have a reason. And I don't. But if we can just get in there, then we'll find out what their purpose is. And then we can make it ours. Now, you see, I've never had to ask to do that. 7 a.m. is 110% Black Channel Films is 100,000% black built. I didn't have to go to anybody else. I didn't have to go outside. I didn't have to sit up here and rely on anything outside of the black community. It was totally put together with black people, among black people. And the reason why that is so important is because that demonstrates to you why we were able to say it unapologetic and uncompromising. We were able to say it, and we are increasing the power and influence of black people because we control all the levers. I didn't need to hook up with somebody else and say, here, can you make it better for me? Or my documentary is not going to be worth anything if you don't sign off on it. My documentary is just fine. Among my people, it's just fine. It's just fine. I don't have to go outside of that. It's just fine. You're looking for something different, but this documentary is just fine, and we cultivated it amongst ourselves. We defined excellence among ourselves. We defined purpose among ourselves. And let me tell you, I've had a number of white folk, especially like the theaters and whatnot. I've had a number of the theaters ask me about it because they were like, who are you people? How did you get so many people to show up for this? How is it that we never heard of you? Because people have been asking us about you. They've been asking us about the advertising. They've been calling us, and we didn't know what to tell them. We didn't know what to tell them about 7 a.m. All we could tell them was it was a movie playing in our theater and there's been a lot of interest, but we couldn't actually say anything beyond that. So we want to know, what is it that this film is about? What are you doing? Because you rented our theaters, but we never actually found out, we don't actually know what the movie is about. Brother, let me tell you now, do you realize what just happened right there? I didn't go to them, they came to me. They came to us and said, how can I be down? Would you like to buy some more advertising time? What is this movie about? Can you talk to some of these other people here? We want to know what's going on. No, I didn't ask for entry into their club. They called the Black Authority and asked what's going on over here. But don't waste your time on that with the Sambos trying to sue their way into a white fraternity. See, they don't understand what it's like. If those white guys called them up and asked them something like that, they would probably go into catatonic shock. You want to know what? You want entry into what? What? Boom, over he goes. They wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't know what to say. You see, power does not respect weakness, it respects power. And power respects what you do, not what you say. Power respects what you take and what you build, not what you beg and what you plead for. Power does not respect that. Power doesn't respect it.
Yeah. It's like what you said a few months ago with power doesn't talk to you. It just moves and it does things to you. And 7 a.m. moved and it did things to people.
Because what they saw was black empowerment in action. They saw it in action. No more theorizing about it. No more guessing. No more hypothesizing. They saw what it looks like in action. And tonight, in Dallas, Texas, tonight, off I-30 off Peak Street, tonight, there is a billboard that says 7 a.m. on DVD and tells the website. Tonight. And other places. They're opening in Ontario. They played 7 a.m. tonight in Ontario. Africa coming up. And some other cities that we've been in, people want to do more screenings in those places. Brother, and you've got And if it means that much to you, if you really want that interest from outside the black community, I've got it. I got it. And guess what? I didn't get it by going to them with my hand out. I got it by building. I got it by setting something up. I got it by refining what we have, and by taking what we have and focusing on what we have and building that and making it more valuable. Now here they come. They want to know how they can be down. They want to know how they can get on the train. They want to know if we want to do more screenings. They came to me. They asked me. I got a few letters sitting over here to my left right now. I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to say any specific places. But I am going to say they want to talk to us, not the other way around. You see, that's how power works. And you know what? I didn't have to sit up here and soft shoe it. I didn't have to take the integrationist route. I didn't have to try to dull down blackness. This film is about black empowerment. And if you all don't believe me, take a look at our billboards in Los Angeles. They're still up. Take a look at our billboards in Texas. They're still up. Take a look at our flyers in New York. And it says on there in big bold letters, I put the pictures up for everybody to see, big bold letters over the Lone Star State. If you're black and broke, it's time to wake up. Not if you're Hispanic and broke, not if you're white and broke, not if you're Jewish and broke, not if you're Arab and broke, not if you're Asian and broke, not if you're a minority, not if you're, let me slap this damn microphone. Not if you're a minority and broke. If you are black and broke, it's time to wake up. Made no apologies about it, and you seen the brothers put the signs up. It says it just like that. If you are black and broke, it says it that way. Didn't have to dull a damn thing down. Didn't just buy one billboard in LA too, as a matter of fact, we bought 5. Didn't have to water it down, didn't have to soft shoe it, didn't have to curve it. We said it just like that. Everybody else is representing for their people. We are showing you through our actions how we represent for black society by first stating that this is about black people and a black issue. All your frauds and all your fakers and all of your pastor pimp preachers out there and all of your con artist Pan-Africanists and all these people out here getting together and doing nothing, but they can't show you where they are putting the issue front and center. We put it front and center. Blackness is the issue. No more philosophizing about it. No more hypothesizing. We said it just like that. And they have, even with us saying it like that, by claiming our blackness, that is what has intrigued them. You mean black is big enough that it can buy billboards and TV time and radio time? Baby, you better believe it. You better believe it. Well, there's a line outside the SVA Theater all the way down to 24th Street and beyond, down around the block. This is what black empowerment can do? Hell yeah, all damn day. And we're just getting started. Let me say it one more time. We're just getting smoking. We ain't even really got out the gate good yet. Forget getting down the straightaway. We're not even out the gate good. And they're coming to us because they want to know, who are these black people who are talking about money and power? Who are they? What are they saying? Who is it who's talking about this? We want to know who that is. What do they have to say? Why don't you come back and explain to us exactly what do you mean by this? Not pussyfooting around the issues. I'm saying what it is we came here for. And I didn't have to ask you for anything. I did not have to ask your permission for anything. I can use your theater. I can use somebody else's. But it's going to get done with or without you. Well, I want to be part of the team. I want to be down. What's going on? What's going on? And this is how we made it happen. No, brother, I got no respect for them because their parents have conditioned them to be Sambos, to be integrationist gigolos. And they look downright pathetic right now, begging for white ice. They look pathetic. They look pathetic. And I'm telling you right now, they don't have to do that. It's totally backwards. They're going backwards now. They're regressing. Because if you were actually moving forward, you would not be doing that. If there's 5 black men, they need to be starting their own black business, but they don't know how to start a black business. Because if they got together with each other, they would be more concerned about who gets to be on the cover of Black Enterprise magazine than they would about who gets the profits. They would want to know how soon am I going to get to be on TV? I did everything I could to avoid television. I got offered, I'm not going to say any names because you don't do that. You don't put folk out there like that. But if I said some names, you all would know who they are if I said some names. And they wanted to interview me. I said no. Because they wanted to interview me on television. And my biggest thing about the Black channel has been that I believe that the biggest Achilles heel that we as black men have had is egos. That we have actually traded in power for attention. And so the way that I make it very clear, Ayatollah Khomeini made it clear that he was serious about freedom and not reconciliation by removing all pictures of him smiling and never letting another picture of him smiling ever appear on earth again. That was sacrifice at a monumental level. And my contribution, my sacrifice is that we are nameless, faceless, voidless. Jason Black, the Black Authority, could be anybody, including the guy sitting right next to you. So you better watch what you say and how you say it. Because you never know where the Black Authority is, and you never know when he's sitting right there. And he doesn't care about, you can't hold out fortune and fame as a lure, as a carrot on a stick for him. He doesn't operate that way. He's not interested in being famous. He's interested in empowerment. Whole new ball game.
Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, that's black empowerment. You just define black empowerment as what we're supposed to be about, because that's what everybody else is about right there for themselves. And that's black empowerment to a T. To the period, that's black empowerment. That we're supposed to build our own and control it and have them come to us, and not to come to us on our terms. Not to go to them and ready to sell them what we create just so we get a pat on the head. Not go to them and build up their fraternities and make their Alabama fraternity look so grand that we have to sue to get involved there. We have to sue to be a part of them. We need to keep on battling to be a part of them and be around white people all the time. That we can't just be around black people. That we're raising our kids to sit around white people all the time. You don't want to be over there with the black people. Fight to be over there with the white people, because they got something going on that is so marvelous and so magnificent that you have to sit amongst them and learn and see it and be a part of it. And then when it goes down, you can always say you were right there. I don't care about them going to the moon. Okay, the moon's been sitting there for 1 billion years. Who cares? You want to go to the moon, with black people. You don't have to be a part of whatever white society and white supremacy has going on, to the point that you don't care about what black is, that you're ready to lay lawsuits and march and sit out and protest. For what? Just so you could be around, so we can have 1 or 2 people be around them? What they're doing is not that big and grandiose so that we have to sit around them. But what we do, we made every form of music, just like the last caller said. Every form of music out there we've made. We've made art. We made language. We made mathematics. We made all the important things of this planet and all the entertaining things of this planet we've made, but we'll sell it off just so that white people could say, yeah, come over here. And we're doing it again with rap music. They go, T.I., I'm ready to sell it off. Here go Iggy Azalea. She just said something about her black scent is legitimate. How are you Australian and your black scent is legitimate? By definition, your black scent is not legitimate. If you have to call it a black scent, because I don't call mine black scent. I don't call anybody else's black scent. We're just black people speaking. So you're saying black sense, so it cannot be legitimate. And he sambles his way in front of cameras and everything with her to legitimize her, Jay, so that he could get a few extra dollars, a pat on the head, and welcomed into a room where he's going to be shown out the other side of the room and kicked out on his butt in a few years. But it was good enough because the ride is grand with white people.
Well, you asked a good question there, though. And this is a question that their pitiful, pathetic fathers and mothers who taught them to beg and bow, which is what they're doing. They're emulating what they saw their mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers do. They saw their parents and grandparents beg and bow, and now they're begging and bowing for access. Please tell me, what is it that is going on at these white fraternities and these white clubs and these white groups? What is it that is going on there that is so great, so grand, so wonderful, so crucial that you are willing to fight and kill and die and give up your money and sue for? Tell me, what is it that's going on there that is just so mind-bogglingly seductive and attractive and irresistible that you must give up everything so you can be a part of it? Somebody explain to me what's going on there that is worth all of this frustration and all this effort. What is it?
They're drinking Miller Lite, and the black fraternities are drinking Heineken. I mean,
they can't even tell you. Once you join these white fraternities, what are you gonna do when you get there? What is it that you fought and sued for? Okay, now you're a part of the fraternity. Now you're going to do what? What? You're going to do what now? They can't tell you because getting in is the goal. They're going to get in there and they're going to let these white folk make a bunch of nigga jokes and all the rest of that mess. What they are hoping is that by being a member of a white fraternity, that will give them more sexual access. That's what they're hoping for. This is what they have been reduced to. As black males, this is what they're reduced to. They're not on the plantation anymore, but they might as well be plantation bucks. I'll let you have the last word, bro.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I hope that we get out of this whole thing that South Africa's going through, because we're doing it right here in the United States with black people and in Europe, really across the world, where we're just forgiving and moving on and just anything to try to integrate with white people. And it just to get a few integrated is the goal. Everybody keep playing, keep spreading black empowerment, keep pushing on with 7 a.m. and turn this whole and keep turning this whole thing around. It's happening. Black first, brother.
Black first, brother. Thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Let me see if we can take another caller here before we go. Let me get caller from 832. You're on live with the Black Channel. Caller from 832. Last try. You're on live with the Black Channel. Caller from 832 has been abducted or is scrambling for his track phone. Caller from 401, you're on live with the Black Channel.
Just listening.
Okay, more people here. We're going to start giving courses on how to hit the proper buttons on Blog Talk. We'll just try that instead. What is it that you think that you're going to get at this white fraternity that is worth all of this effort? What is it you're actually striving for? Because you see, if you're going to file a lawsuit against somebody, there should be a goal. There should actually be some physical, tangible goal, something that you're going to get. You see, when I sue people, I'm suing for money. I'm suing because there's going to be money out of this. What money are they going to get for suing this white fraternity? What is it that you are owed by them? And the real issue is that as black males, we don't have a purpose today. So our purpose has become integration and intercourse. That's right, I said it just like that. We have made our purpose for being to integrate and to intercourse, and that's it. So We got to sue this white fraternity to get in here. We got to do this. We have got to forgive our enemies. We've got to let the guy who killed our mothers and babies to go free, because that has become our purpose for being. Empowerment is not the purpose. And I want to say to you all tonight that most of your parents have betrayed you because they have not taught you the history of where we have been and what we are as a people. They have not taught you who our enemies are. Most of you have no idea what happened in South Africa. You have no idea about the apartheid regime. You have no idea what happened to us as a people. You have no clue. And you have no clue because your very parents betrayed you and did not tell you. And now you're walking out there into the world with everybody else laughing at you. The whole rest of the world laughs at us as black people because they know the joke. They know the joke. And they know that we're not in on the joke. They know that it's a joke that's being played on us, and that everybody around us understands that we're the butt of the joke. But we don't know we're the butt of the joke. And the joke is that if you bow and scrape enough and let us soil you enough and dump enough crap on you enough, that you can be integrated with us, that you can be accepted by us. It's like Charlie Brown kicking the football. Instead of Charlie Brown forgetting about the football and getting his own football and playing with somebody with some sense, he keeps going back to this little sadist. He keeps going back and letting Lucy torment him over and over again. He keeps going back, knowing full well what's about to happen. But he keeps going back. And everybody laughs when he runs to go kick the football and of course misses it. Why? Because Lucy is in on the joke. Everybody watching is in on the joke. Even Charles Schultz, even the man drawing the cartoon, even he is in on the joke. Everybody is in on the joke except Charlie. He's not in on it. He doesn't know. And even though he's aware that she keeps doing this every time, he's not aware that it's a joke. He knows it's bad. He knows bad things keep happening. But he's not in on the joke. He doesn't understand that she is doing that for her own personal amusement. That it's funny to her to see his suffering. That to see him yearning and striving for something that she already knows she is never going to give him. Just the idea is so entertaining to see him striving for that which he can never have. She just gets a kick out of it. She just gets a kick out of it. And this is the way the rest of the world sees us. That they know that they're out to get us. They know that they're out to kill us. They know that they're out to disenfranchise us, to economically annihilate us. They know what they're trying to do. And they sit there and laugh because they can see that we just don't get it, or we just don't want to get it, or we just don't want to believe it. So we keep coming back day after day, time after time, trial after trial, and keep trying to force them to hold the football still and allow us to kick it, and knowing full well they are not going to do that. They're not going to do that because that's not in their best interests. It's just not. It's not in their best interest to stop tormenting us. It's not in their best interest to give us access. And furthermore, why would you want to have access to somebody who has tormented you and sadistically injured you in the way that they have? Why do you even want that? What is it that you are so desperate to get from them that you are willing to overlook all of these horrendous crimes against you? What is it that you want from them so badly? And the truth is that most of you, along with taking your civil rights, they also took your self-esteem and your self-worth. They took those too. And now you are desperately trying to get back your self-esteem and your self-worth from the very people and the very powers that did this to you in the first place. You're desperate to try to get it back. Many of you talking about going back to Africa, you do not understand just how many Africans are so far gone. They are so far gone at this point that there is simply nothing you can do for them. They are so far gone at this point that they are actually fighting on the side of the people who are killing them. They are so far gone, they are actually fighting to help the people who are killing them. And you better understand that, or you will be one of the people who is a victim also. You talk about going back to Africa, going back to Africa, going back to Africa. And I submit the question to you tonight, exactly what is it that you think you're going back to? Exactly what is it that you think you're going back to? Maybe you should actually take a little bit of time and actually find out. What's the real mindset going on over there? Are they actually in tune with what it is you think? Or is it that you're a coward over here and you're going to go back over there and now you can be a coward over there? And I guess you'll fit right in because they've already got Daniel Pentaleo as being let, hell, even if you could get him arrested. But do you know what they really just told you all? I want you to remember this tonight. Do you know what they really just told you by paroling to cock like this? Do you know what they really just told you? They really just told you that you cannot kill enough Africans. You can't kill enough of them to get punished for it. He got to kill dozens of Africans and he's released. Please, people, that's a net sum gain. That's not a net loss. That's a net gain. That is a net gain. He got to kill dozens of you and he only did 20 years in the clink. Please, his children are proud of him. His children are proud of him because what you just told them is that there simply is no amount of black people that you can murder that it will be considered a serious crime. And that's Africans telling you this now. How do you expect the rest of the world to value black blood? And you have just declared to the world that you yourself do not value your own blood. How is it that you expect the rest of the world to place a higher value on black lives than you do? Somebody explain to me, how does that work? How do you get the rest of the world to value black lives lost when you don't? Talking about Black Lives Matter. But the only people black lives don't matter to, apparently, are black folk. Because when it is time to inflict some serious consequences for black lives, we don't do it. We're hugging up on the very people who killed us. A lot of people have been talking about divisiveness. I am not interested in black unity. You think I want unity with people who let child killers of black children walk? Hell no. I want division. There was one hammer-headed Negro bedwench today who was talking about that. You're putting down folk in Africa. That's divisive. You damn right. I want division from them. I don't want any part of that mentality, that sick psychosis. I don't want any part of it. You go dance the Sambo jig and hope that you can get Daniel Pentalio to ask you out on a date. Bed wench and bed slut. I'm not interested in that. I don't want unity with people who will overlook our killers. Those ain't nobody I want unity with. That's nobody I'm trying to get unified with. I want division. I want removal. 'Cause you and I ain't going to the same place. You and I ain't going to the same place. You and I don't have the same goal. We don't have the same goal. We're not going to the same place. We don't have the same destination. My destination is empowerment. Your destination is appeasement. Because you know what it means to forgive somebody? The way that these people are saying it, to forgive in their eyes means that raping your wife is just the cost of doing business. That we are Africans on African soil, and yet we have to give up our wives and our children to make the invaders, who are only 5% of the population, happy. Now I want to say what I have to say next. And I want to say this in absolutely no uncertain terms. And if this upsets, alienates, or offends, damn ya, you can go to hell. I want to say to you all tonight that you better take what you've heard tonight seriously. For your own sake, for your own safety, for your own children. You better take it seriously. Because right now, it's gonna be them or us. That's it. There is no third category. It's going to be them or it's going to be us. Those are the choices. It's us or them. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't tell you who us and them are. Us is intelligent black society, the ones who built the pyramids, the ones who created jazz music, the ones that have enculturated the world and created art and medicine and music and science. Us, that's us. Them is not white supremacy. No. You see, them are the coons, the Sambos, the bowers, the scrapers, the appeasers, the slaves, the house niggas. The ones who value white supremacy's presence, because they can never get acceptance by it. All they have is the presence of white supremacy. They value white supremacy's presence over our blood. And I'm telling you right now, there's not enough room on this planet for intelligent black people and coon-minded idiots, and there's not enough room in the future for us to wait any longer. So the choice now is between us and them, because only one of us has a place in the future. Both of us cannot survive. One of us is going to live and thrive, and the other one is going to be pushed into extinction. And that's just it. For everybody else listening here tonight, if you had tickets and you have not requested a refund for your tickets for the January 17th screening of 7 a.m. in Chicago, you will be receiving an email at the email address that you gave Brown Paper Tickets. that will contain a link. In the next 24 hours here, you'll all start receiving a link that will take you to a screening of 7 a.m. online. You'll be able to see it streamed online. And you are invited to give that link to other people, the other people who came with you, okay? If it's somebody who, if you had your kinfolk with you or whatever, because some of you did bring kinfolk with you to the place. If you did that, and if you did not request a refund, we know who you are because we know everybody who requested a refund. If you didn't do that, you will be receiving an email at the email address that you gave Brown Paper Tickets. Do not send me any messages or any emails talking about, what's the link? Where's it at? Can you send it to my other email address? No. If you gave me your baby mama's email address and now she's not letting you in, that's your behind. If you gave me an email address and you can't remember your password to it, that's your behind. We are only using the email addresses that were given on Brown Paper Tickets. That's it. Now, as long as you didn't request a refund, you'll be receiving the link. If you did request a refund, you'll know because you won't receive a link. But you didn't want to see the movie. You wanted to have a refund. So understand, this is the Black Channel. This is intelligent Black society. There is literally nobody else, anywhere that when something goes wrong with their movies, they give you this option. Nobody anywhere does that. And it's taken a while for us to get this set up properly, but we wanted to make sure it was set up properly so that it would run like it was supposed to. But as long as we make sure it's up and going, and like I say, there's been some kinks to work out, but I think we've got most of the kinks worked out of it here. So this is what we're doing on the cutting edge of these things. Because this is how we want the future to be dealt with, that we as Black people, we're showing you Black excellence. That when you think of innovation, you will think of Africans first. And we are blazing the trails to make that a reality. So, of course, you should be looking for that here coming up shortly. Thank you very much for your patience. By the way, you will be seeing a version of 7 a.m. that is different than the version that you would have seen that night. It actually has some extra footage in it. Yes, I did that. It actually has some extra footage in it that was not available the night that you all came to see 7 a.m. So, just to give you a little lagniappe, just to give you something a little bit extra, just to let you know, this actually has footage that was not in 7 a.m. the night you came to see it. Just thought I'd throw that in there for you. But since you all have had to wait for that, I just thought we'd put that in there for you. So be looking for that. That's coming up here shortly. In the meantime, this concludes tonight's broadcast of the BlackChannel.net radio. I am, of course, your brother, your host, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, brothers and sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.